demonstration, so I'm going to be throwing things down and explaining things as I go. So the first thing I'm going to use is dolomite lime, which is right here, and this is full of calcium and magnesium, which is absolutely essential for our soils. And the reason is because as you've seen the last 2 weeks, the rain's been coming down so hard. And another thing is that rain is becoming more acidic because of the environmental crisis that we're in. So the lime is full of calcium and magnesium. I put it in twice a year. I put it in the spring and I put it in the fall. And I also make a fertilizer that I add throughout the year to amend my veggies, because veggies, especially brassicas, love the calcium. And they say in a year 500 pounds of calcium are leached out of our soil in 1 acre of farmland in a year on the west coast. So that's huge. And if you've ever seen commercial farmers with their machines, they put tons and tons of lime into their soil. And it's something that not many people do here. A lot of people don't lime their soils, and it's absolutely essential. So the first thing I do with my mulch is I spread a generous layer of lime down over top of the soil. And it's so soft on the hands, it feels great.
Is it hard on the hands in any way? If you have cracks or sores?
Not that I've experienced, no. It's just powdered rock, right? So it's not like any sort of chemical you're dealing with, so it's just dust, literally.
Neat.
So that's the first component. As far as coverage, it all depends. What I do is I just cover it so I see a kind of like a millimeter layer, just so it's like just essentially I'm putting it down, I can see it's down. You can over lime, which is really dangerous, because if you do over lime, it's actually pretty hard to correct. If I dump that whole bag right here, that would be too much lime. So it's just getting it in your hands and sprinkling it on the earth, essentially good enough. This is my next favorite thing, alfalfa meal. This stuff is amazing. Alfalfa is a legume, and it is super high in protein, amino acids, and it's amazing. It's amazing stuff. It's pulverized, and this stuff is full of nutrients. And I sprinkle it here because microorganisms that live in the soil, they come out at night and they feed on the nutrients and all the organic matter during the night. So they're kind of like the vampires and the monsters of the soil.
Where do they come from?
Good question.
Like under the soil, or where?
Yeah, they live in the soil.
And they feed at night.
Yeah, they come out at night. So this is just putting down a nutrient-rich layer. They got the nitrogen, they got the lime, they got the calcium. You can buy the actual alfalfa pellets, and then if you let them get wet, it's 20 kilograms, so I think it's for like $8.50, so that's what I use at my place. And I just use it like just a little bit, and I just use it for the microorganisms to have a bit of food to feed on.
Is it organic?
That stuff is, yeah. But the stuff that if you bought it at, say, Top Shelf, it wouldn't be. So, but this stuff is, yeah.
And how should I feel about that going into the soil if it's not organic?
That's a good question.
Is that like whoa, that's on a scale of like not so good idea, or?
It all depends on your viewpoint. I feel that energetically we can change things, and also the soil can also change things too. Like things do get metamorphosized, like through the changing.
They get incorporated.
Exactly. So
everything gets incorporated.
And if you think about it, there's jets flying over our head, there's cars going by, there's no matter what you do, there's going to be some stuff that's going to be in your soil. This one I use here is seaweed, which I collected at Cherry Point yesterday. Seaweed is pretty much the best amender on the planet as far as gardens go.
Nice.
This is mostly sea lettuce. And I rinsed it. Yes, I left it out in the rain. It's a good idea to rinse it to get the salt off the seaweed. And seaweed has very little cellulose, because cellulose is what keeps plants standing upright. Since the seaweed is in the ocean, it doesn't need that structural stuff, which is great for our compost and for our gardens because it breaks down very, very rapidly.
I read once that seaweed and sea vegetables, they've taken them out of the dirtiest bays in America and it's still perfect.
Yeah.
It's like they only take what they want out of the water.
Now, can you overdo that?
No. I grew brassicas this year, and I had about 1.5 feet high of just seaweed topped with manure.
Yeah.
I threw tarps over it, let it sit for 6 weeks, and insane.
Wow.
And that's the old secrets in Scotland and England and in Ireland.
Yeah.
A lot of the farmers, that was their secret. They used to bring seaweed up. And this stuff is amazing for putting in rain barrels.
I figured it would be.
Yeah. And so you just let it sit, and it gets really stinky. But
Yeah.
that's the sign.
Yeah.
Something good going.
Right on.
Lots of neat bugs.
Why not make it the best food on the planet?
Yeah.
Why not make it something that's going to taste so good and give you all the nutrients your body needs, right?
Yeah.
Because you go to Safeway or any of those places and you buy food, it's commercial food, and you can taste like the celery over there compared to the celery that I...
Oh man, what is with that?
You know?
And then, like, you can go to cafeterias from 1964 in my brain and they still smell the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how do they get the food to smell the same across the country?
Same field has become out of the same field
Right.
for 50 years.
That's what it is. I never really understood that.
Full kelp, which is absolutely fascinating plant in my mind.
Yeah, me too.
This I throw in rain barrels, and I let it sit for 6 to 8 weeks in the sun.
Sweet.
And I use that to water a lot of my tomatoes, squashes, various things like that. I don't essentially put it in my sheet mulches just because it does take so long to break down, but I just did bring some just to show that it is very, very...
So if you found a way to mechanically shred them?
I guess so, yeah.
That
you
would...
could throw it in a chipper shredder, or you could just throw it in the ground and...
like that. Yeah, break it up.
Yeah.
Cool.
So now I've laid this is kind of like my nitrogen layer, because the seaweed is really high in nitrogen, and the alfalfa meal I put down is as well. So I got some leaves. I wanted to shred more, but they were so wet. My lawnmower wasn't liking the process of sticky wet leaves. But this is my carbon. This is one of the best things you can add to your garden this time of year as your carbon source. Because the microorganisms need both carbon and nitrogen, and they need it in a direct, like in a balanced proportion. So if you just grab leaves and throw them on your garden, people call that a mulch. It's a good mulch. It's going to keep the weeds down. But it's not essentially going to build your soil. When you just put carbon down on the soil like this, it actually pulls nitrogen out of the soil, because the microorganisms need nitrogen and they need carbon in a balanced ratio to break down. So that's why I mix the seaweed, and then I throw the leaves on top of it. And I'm creating kind of like a compost layer on the garden.
So it's paying attention to what's in there, like any kind of when you make a meal, you decide all the flavors in your meal. You're creating a meal for our food to eat.
You're creating a meal for billions of microorganisms to eat, right?
Right, and you want to all your guests got to have their treats.
Yeah, exactly. And they want to be happy, you know.
Yeah, totally.
And then this is more leaves. I didn't get a chance to shred these ones, but some of them are pretty broken down. So again, this is my carbon layer. And all these weeds on the side here, I just cover them, and they'll become a part of the mishmash.
I'm gonna have huge veggies, right?
Huge.
Good taste.